My ex-best friend sabotaged my dream job interview to get it herself. You're not qualified anyway. 5 years later, I'm her boss and she just applied to work under me. I'm sitting in my corner office right now, still trying to process what happened in yesterday's interview. 5 years ago, my best friend since childhood destroyed our friendship by sabotaging the most important job interview of my life so she could get the position herself. Yesterday, she sat across from my desk desperately interviewing for an entry-level position at the company I now run as CEO, having no idea who was interviewing her until I walked into the room. The look of shock, recognition, and panic on her face when she realized that the person holding her career in their hands was the same person whose career she had tried to destroy will stay with me forever. Let me start from the beginning, because this story goes back to when Jenna and I were 7 years old and became inseparable best friends. Jenna Martinez and I met in 2nd grade when her family moved to our small town. I was shy, bookish, and didn't have many friends. She was outgoing, confident, and immediately popular with everyone. For some reason, she decided to take me under her wing, and we became the kind of best friends who did everything together. Throughout elementary school, middle school, and high school, we were inseparable. We had sleepovers every weekend, took the same classes, joined the same clubs, and planned to go to college together. Everyone in our town knew us as Chloe and Jenna, the inseparable duo who balanced each other's personalities perfectly, but there was always an undercurrent of competition between us that I didn't fully recognize until it was too late. Jenna was naturally charismatic and socially gifted. She was student body president, prom queen, and the kind of person everyone wanted to be friends with. I was the academic achiever, valedictorian, national merit scholar, and the one teachers went to when they needed someone reliable. In high school, our different strengths complemented each other well. Jenna would help me navigate social situations and boost my confidence. I would help her with studying and keeping up with challenging coursework. We both got into our top choice university, with plans to room together and continue our partnership through college. But college was where the cracks in our friendship started to show. At a large state university, Jenna's social skills made her immediately popular. She joined a top-tier sorority, started dating guys from prominent fraternities, and became involved in student government and social organizations. Meanwhile, I focused on academics and professional development. I maintained a 4.0 GPA, conducted research with professors, and pursued internships in marketing and communications, my intended career field. For the first 2 years, our different paths didn't cause major problems. We still roomed together, still spent time together, and still supported each other's different approaches to college life. But junior year, something changed. Jenna's grades started slipping as she spent more time on social activities and less time studying. Her GPA dropped to a 2.8, which put her at risk of losing her scholarships and potentially being kicked out of her sorority. At the same time, I was thriving academically and professionally. I had landed competitive internships, been accepted into the honors program, and was being recruited by top companies for post-graduation opportunities. Jenna started making comments about how I was too focused on work and missing out on the real college experience. "Chloe, you need to relax and have some fun," she'd say when I chose to study instead of going to parties with her. "You're going to burn out if you keep pushing yourself so hard. Companies want well-rounded people, not just grades." At first, I thought she was being a concerned friend, but I started to notice that her criticism of my focus on academics and career preparation seemed to intensify as her own academic performance declined. Senior year, the competition between us became more obvious and more bitter. We were both communications majors interested in marketing and public relations careers, but our college experiences had prepared us very differently for the job market. I had a stellar academic record, multiple internship experiences, glowing recommendations from professors, and a portfolio of real projects I'd completed for local businesses during my internships. Jenna had strong social skills and leadership experience from her extracurricular activities, but her poor grades and lack of professional experience made her a less competitive candidate for the top entry-level positions we both wanted. The breaking point came during spring semester of senior year, when we both applied for the same dream job, a marketing coordinator position at Elevate Strategies, the most prestigious marketing agency in our state. Elevate Strategies was known for hiring only the best new graduates, offering excellent training, great benefits, and a clear path to career advancement. Getting hired there straight out of college was considered a golden ticket to a successful marketing career. I had been researching the company since sophomore year, tailoring my internship choices and coursework to align with their needs, and building relationships with alumni who worked there. Jenna decided to apply at the last minute after seeing how excited I was about the opportunity. "If you're applying there, I should apply too," she said when I mentioned that I'd submitted my application. "We're both communications majors. We both want marketing careers. Why shouldn't I have the same opportunities you do?" "Of course you should apply if you're interested," I replied, though I was privately confident that my superior academic record and internship experience would give me a significant advantage. We both received calls for first-round interviews, scheduled for the same week in March. My interview was on Tuesday. Jenna's was on Thursday. The weekend before our interviews, Jenna suggested we spend Sunday preparing together. "We can practice answering common interview questions and give each other feedback," she said. "Two heads are better than one." I thought this was a great idea. Despite our recent tensions, Jenna was still my best friend, and I genuinely wanted both of us to do well in our interviews. interviews. We spent hours on Sunday going through potential interview questions, discussing the company's recent campaigns, and helping each other prepare thoughtful answers about our qualifications and career goals. Jenna was particularly interested in my research about the company's newest clients and recent strategic initiatives. "How did you find out about the Peterson Industries account?" she asked when I mentioned some inside information I'd gathered from an alumni contact. "Sarah Mitchell. She graduated 2 years ago and works there now. She told me that Peterson Industries is their biggest new client this year, and they're looking for someone with experience in B2B campaigns." "That's exactly the kind of information that could set an interview apart," Jenna said, taking detailed notes. Sarah also mentioned that they're expanding their digital marketing team and looking for someone who understands social media analytics and content management. "You're so well prepared," Jenna said admiringly. "I should definitely mention my social media experience from the sorority." I shared everything I knew about the company, the position, and the interview process, including insights from my alumni contact about what qualities the hiring managers valued most. Jenna seemed genuinely grateful for my help and information. "Chloe, you're the best friend anyone could ask for," she said as we finished our prep session. "I know we're technically competing for the same job, but I want both of us to do well. Of course, may the best candidate win, right? Right. And honestly, you're probably more qualified than I am anyway. I just want to give it my best shot." I went into my Tuesday interview feeling confident and well prepared. The interview was with 3 people: the marketing director, the senior account manager, and the HR representative. They asked about my academic background, internship experiences, and knowledge of current marketing trends. I felt like the interview went exceptionally well. I was able to discuss specific campaigns I'd worked on during internships, demonstrate knowledge of the company's recent work, and articulate a clear vision for how I'd contribute to their team. When they asked about my familiarity with their client base, I mentioned the Peterson Industries account and my understanding of their B2B marketing needs. "How did you know about Peterson Industries?" the marketing director asked, looking impressed. "I spoke with Sarah Mitchell, one of your recent hires, who mentioned that you were expanding your B2B capabilities to serve clients like Peterson." "That's exactly right. We're looking for someone who can hit the ground running on complex B2B campaigns." The interview lasted over an hour, and all 3 interviewers seemed engaged and positive. They told me they'd be making a decision by the end of the week, after completing their remaining interviews. I left feeling optimistic and excited about the possibility of starting my career at such a prestigious company. When I got home, Jenna was waiting to hear how it went. "It was amazing," I told her. "I think it went really well. They seemed impressed with my internship work and my knowledge about their clients." "That's great. I'm so proud of you. Did you mention the Peterson Industries thing?" "Yes, and they were really interested in that. I think having inside information about their client needs was a huge advantage." "Definitely. You're so smart to have researched everything so thoroughly." We spent the evening celebrating my successful interview and preparing Jenna for her Thursday meeting. But Wednesday afternoon, I received a call that changed everything. "Chloe, this is Linda Thompson from Elevate Strategies. I need to speak with you about something that's come to our attention regarding your interview yesterday." My heart immediately started racing. Had I said something wrong? Had there been some mistake in my application? Of course, what can I help clarify? "We received some information suggesting that you may have misrepresented your qualifications during your interview." "I'm sorry. What kind of misrepresentation?" "Specifically, we were told that you claimed to have experience with Peterson Industries that you don't actually have, and that you may have obtained confidential information about our client relationships inappropriately." I was completely confused. "Ms. Thompson, I never claimed to have direct experience with Peterson Industries. I mentioned that I understood they were a new client because Sarah Mitchell had told me about their B2B focus. We spoke with Sarah Mitchell this morning, and she has no record of discussing Peterson Industries with you. She also said she's never met you or had any conversation about our client accounts." This was impossible. I had definitely spoken with Sarah Mitchell at a networking event in February. We had talked for 20 minutes about her job at Elevate Strategies and their recent client wins. "Ms. Thompson, I definitely spoke with Sarah at the Alumni Marketing Network event in February. She specifically mentioned Peterson Industries and your B2B expansion." "Chloe, I need to tell you something. The Peterson Industries account doesn't exist. There is no Peterson Industries in our client portfolio." My stomach dropped. "What? Peterson Industries is not one of our clients. We have no B2B expansion initiative related to that company. Someone provided you with false information about our business." I felt sick. Someone had deliberately given me fake information that I had then repeated during my interview, making me look like I was lying about my connections and knowledge. "Ms. Thompson, I promise you, I was given this information by someone I believed was Sarah Mitchell. I would never intentionally misrepresent anything. I believe that you didn't intend to mislead us. But the fact remains that you provided incorrect information about our client relationships and business strategy during your interview. Is there any way I can clarify this? Can I explain what happened? Unfortunately, we've already moved forward with other candidates. I wanted to call and let you know that we won't be extending an offer, and to suggest that you be more careful about verifying information in future interviews." I hung up the phone in shock and devastation. Not only had I lost my dream job, but I had been accused of dishonesty and poor judgment. The worst part was that I had no idea how I had been given false information about Peterson Industries. I immediately tried calling the phone number I had for Sarah Mitchell, call, but it went straight to a voicemail for a number that was no longer in service. I looked up Sarah Mitchell on LinkedIn and found her profile, but when I tried to message her, she responded that she had never spoken with me and had no idea how I had gotten her name. Someone had deliberately set me up with false information, knowing that I would use it in my interview and sabotage my own candidacy. But who would do such a thing? Thursday evening, Jenna came home from her interview glowing with excitement. "Chloe, it went so well. I think I really impressed them. They seem to love my sorority leadership experience and my ideas for social media marketing." "That's great," I said, though I was still devastated about my own situation. "Did you hear anything back about your interview?" "Actually, I got some bad news. They said I provided incorrect information during my interview, so they're not moving forward with me." Jenna looked shocked. "What kind of incorrect information?" "I mentioned Peterson Industries as one of their clients, but apparently that company doesn't exist. Someone gave me false information that I repeated in the interview." "Oh my God, that's terrible. How could that happen?" "I have no idea. I was sure that Sarah Mitchell had told me about Peterson Industries, but when they contacted her, she said she'd never spoken with me." Jenna shook her head sympathetically. "That's so weird. Maybe you misunderstood something she said?" "Maybe, I don't know. I'm just devastated. This was my dream job." "I'm so sorry, Chloe. That's really unfair." Friday afternoon, Jenna received a call offering her the position at Elevate Strategies. She accepted immediately and spent the weekend celebrating her success, while I wallowed in my disappointment and confusion about what had gone wrong. It wasn't until the following week that I discovered the truth about what had happened. I was at a coffee shop near campus when I overheard a conversation between two girls from Jenna's sorority. "I can't believe Jenna actually pulled that off," one of them was saying. "I know. Setting up that fake Sarah Mitchell meeting was genius. And getting her roommate to use false information in her interview? That's so devious. But it worked. Jenna got the job, and now she doesn't have to compete with Little Miss Perfect anymore." I felt like I was going to be sick. I turned around and asked them directly, "Are you talking about Jenna Martinez and the Elevate Strategies job?" They looked embarrassed and tried to backtrack, but I pressed them for details. Eventually, one of them admitted what had happened. Jenna had been worried that she couldn't compete with my qualifications for the Elevate Strategies position, so she had created an elaborate plan to sabotage my interview. She had recruited a sorority sister to pose as Sarah Mitchell at the Alumni Marketing Network event. The fake Sarah had approached me, introduced herself using the real Sarah's name and job title, and deliberately provided me with false information about Peterson Industries. Jenna knew I would use that information in my interview because she had heard me mention Sarah Mitchell during our prep session. When I repeated the false information during my interview, it made me look dishonest and poorly prepared, eliminating me as competition for the position. Meanwhile, Jenna had used all the legitimate research and preparation strategies I had shared with her during our study session to prepare for her own interview. She had stolen my preparation work and sabotaged my candidacy, ensuring that she would get the job I had worked years to qualify for. I confronted Jenna that evening. "I know what you did," I said when she walked into our apartment. "What are you talking about?" "I know about the fake Sarah Mitchell. I know you set me up with false information to sabotage my interview." Jenna's face went pale, but she tried to deny it. "Chloe, that's crazy. Why would I do something like that?" "Because you knew you couldn't compete with my qualifications, so you decided to cheat instead." "I didn't cheat. I just prepared really well for my interview." "You prepared using research I shared with you, and you eliminated me using fraud." Finally, Jenna dropped the pretense. "Fine. Yes, I did it. But honestly, Chloe, you're not as qualified as you think you are." I stared at her in shock. "How can you say that?" "Because it's true. You have good grades and some internship experience, but you have no personality. You're boring, you're antisocial, and you would never succeed in a client-facing role. So you decided to sabotage my interview?" "I decided to level the playing field. You've always had advantages that I don't have. Better grades, more internship opportunities, professors who favor you. I finally had to use my strengths to compete." "Your strengths? You mean fraud and betrayal?" "I mean social intelligence and strategic thinking, skills that actually matter in the real world." "Jenna, you committed fraud. You impersonated someone else and provided false information specifically to damage my candidacy. And it worked, because at the end of the day, I'm better suited for that job than you are, regardless of what your transcript says." I couldn't believe this was the same person who had been my best friend for 15 years. "Jenna, you stole my dream job through fraud. I got a job I was qualified for through creative problem solving. There's nothing creative about fraud." "Chloe, you need to face reality. You're not as special as you think you are. Your grades and internships don't automatically make you the best candidate for every job. Maybe not, but I should have had the chance to compete fairly. Life isn't fair. The sooner you learn that, the better off you'll be. Get out." "What? Get out of this apartment. I never want to see you again." "Chloe, you're being dramatic. We can work through this." "There's nothing to work through. You're a fraud and a liar, and I want nothing to do with you." Jenna moved out that weekend, and we never spoke again. I finished my senior year devastated by both the loss of my dream job and the betrayal by my closest friend. But losing the Elevate Strategies position forced me to explore other opportunities that I might not have considered otherwise. I ended up accepting a position at a smaller marketing agency that specialized in working with nonprofits and socially conscious businesses. The salary was lower and the prestige was less, but the work was meaningful and the company culture was collaborative and supportive. More importantly, I thrived in an environment where my colleagues valued integrity, authenticity, and genuine genuine expertise over social manipulation and office politics. Within 6 months, I was promoted to Senior Marketing Coordinator. Within a year, I was leading client accounts and developing strategic campaigns that were generating impressive results for our nonprofit clients. I discovered that I had a particular talent for digital marketing and data analytics, skills that were becoming increasingly valuable in the industry. I also discovered that I loved working with mission-driven organizations that were trying to make a positive impact on the world. 2 years after graduation, I was recruited by a larger agency that specialized in digital marketing for social impact organizations. The new position came with a significant salary increase and the opportunity to work with national nonprofits and advocacy groups. By year 3, I was managing a team of junior marketers and leading some of the agency's most high-profile campaigns, but I was also becoming frustrated with the limitations of working for other people's agencies. I had ideas for how digital marketing could be used more effectively to support social causes, but I was constrained by my employer's existing client relationships and service offerings, so I decided to start my own agency. Using savings from my higher salary and a small business loan, I launched Impact Digital, a marketing agency focused exclusively on helping nonprofits, advocacy organizations, and social enterprises build their digital presence and grow their impact. The first year was incredibly challenging. I was working 80-hour weeks, doing everything from client work to bookkeeping to business development, but I was also doing the most fulfilling work of my career. I was helping organizations that were addressing homelessness, environmental protection, education equity, and other critical social issues reach larger audiences and achieve greater impact. My background in data analytics and digital marketing, combined with my passion for social causes, created a unique value proposition that resonated with mission-driven organizations. By the end of year 1, Impact Digital had 12 clients and was generating enough revenue for me to hire my first employee. By year 2, we had grown to 8 employees and were working with some of the most respected nonprofits in the region. By year 3, we had expanded nationally and were being recognized as a leader in digital marketing for social impact. Last year, our 4th year, Impact Digital was named one of the fastest-growing marketing agencies in the country by Industry Today magazine. We now employ 45 people, work with over 200 clients, and generate $8 million in annual revenue. But the most satisfying part of building Impact Digital has been creating the kind of workplace culture that I wish had existed when I was starting my career. We hire based on talent, integrity, and commitment to our mission, rather than social connections or political skills. We promote based on performance and contribution, rather than who can best navigate office politics. We treat our employees as partners in building something meaningful, rather than as disposable resources. Most importantly, we've proven that a business built on authentic expertise and genuine values can be more successful than one built on manipulation and shortcuts. Which brings me to yesterday's interview. I was reviewing resumes for a new senior account manager position when I saw a familiar name, Jenna Martinez. My first instinct was to immediately reject the application, but I was curious about what had happened to Jenna's career after she stole my dream job through fraud, so I decided to interview her. I scheduled the interview without revealing that I would be conducting it personally. Our HR manager sent the standard interview confirmation email, and I asked her not to mention my name as the CEO. Yesterday morning, Jenna arrived for her interview expecting to meet with a hiring manager. Instead, she found herself sitting across from her former best friend whose career she had tried to sabotage 5 years earlier. The recognition was immediate and devastating. "Oh my God," she whispered when I walked into the conference room. "Hello, Jenna. Chloe, I had no idea. I didn't know you worked here. I don't work here. I own here." She stared at me in shock. "You own Impact Digital?" "I founded Impact Digital 4 years ago. We're now one of the leading digital marketing agencies for social impact organizations." I don't understand. How is that possible? Hard work, integrity, and genuine expertise. Concepts you might not be familiar with. Jenna looked like she was going to be sick. "Chloe, I can explain. There's nothing to explain. You sabotaged my interview at Elevate Strategies so you could get the job yourself. I know exactly what happened. That was 5 years ago. I was young and stupid and scared. You were an adult who committed fraud to steal someone else's opportunity. I know it was wrong. I've regretted it every day since then." "Have you? Because from what I can see, you built your early career on that stolen opportunity." "Actually, that's not true." "What do you mean?" Jenna looked defeated. "I lasted 8 months at Elevate Strategies before I was fired. This was not what I had expected to hear." "Fired for what?" "Poor performance. Inability to work effectively with clients. Lack of strategic thinking. Basically, everything you said would happen if I got a job I wasn't qualified for." "And then?" "Then I spent the next 4 years bouncing between entry-level marketing jobs, getting fired or laid off from each one after a few months." "Why?" "Because you were right. I didn't have the skills or experience needed for professional marketing work. I had gotten the Elevate job through fraud, but I couldn't actually do the work once I was there." I was starting to understand why Jenna was applying for a position that was significantly below the level she should have reached after 5 years in the industry. "So where does that leave you now?" "Unemployed for the past 6 months, struggling to find anyone who will hire me because of my track record of short-term employment." "And you decided to apply here because Impact Digital has a reputation for being a great place to work, and I desperately need a job that I might actually be able to succeed in." I looked at Jenna's resume more carefully. After being fired from Elevate Elevate strategies, she had worked at 5 different companies over 4 years. None of the positions lasted longer than 10 months. Her most recent job had been as a social media coordinator at a small retail company, a role that was significantly less prestigious and lower paying than the marketing coordinator position she had stolen from me 5 years earlier. Jenna, why should I consider hiring someone who sabotaged my career and has a demonstrated pattern of poor job performance? Because I've learned from my mistakes. Because I understand now that I need to earn success through actual work rather than through manipulation. What makes you think you can succeed here when you failed everywhere else? Because this is the first time I've applied for a job that I'm actually qualified for instead of a job that I thought would make me look impressive. This was interesting. What do you mean? I mean, I've spent 5 years trying to get marketing jobs that were too advanced for my actual skill level. I kept thinking that if I could just get hired for the right position, I'd figure out how to do the work. And that didn't work? Obviously not. I finally realized that I need to start at a level that matches my actual experience and work my way up honestly. So you're applying for a senior account manager position because I'm not. I know the job posting says senior account manager, but I'm applying to be considered for any entry-level position you might have available. I looked at the application again. Jenna had indeed indicated that she was interested in any available position, not specifically the senior account manager role. Jenna, our entry-level positions pay significantly less than what you were making at your previous jobs. I understand that. I also understand that I need to rebuild my career from the ground up instead of continuing to look for shortcuts. What makes you think you can handle even an entry-level position here? Because I finally figured out what I'm actually good at and what I'm not good at, which is I'm good at content creation, social media management, and project coordination. I'm not good at strategic planning, client relationship management, or leading teams. So you're looking for a role that focuses on execution rather than strategy? Exactly. I want to do work that I can actually do well instead of pretending to be qualified for responsibilities I don't understand. This was a level of self-awareness that I hadn't expected from Jenna. Tell me about what you've learned from your career struggles. I've learned that success built on fraud or manipulation is temporary and ultimately self-destructive. I've learned that there's no substitute for genuine skills and experience. And I've learned that it's better to be excellent at work you're qualified for than to be mediocre at work that's beyond your capabilities. What else? I've learned that the kind of office politics and social manipulation that I thought were strategic thinking are actually just ways of avoiding real work. And I've learned that companies that value those qualities over actual competence are usually dysfunctional places to work. Is that an apology for what you did to me 5 years ago? It's more than an apology. It's an acknowledgement that everything you said about me was right. I wasn't qualified for the Elevate Strategies job. I didn't have the skills or experience needed for that level of responsibility. And trying to build my career on a foundation of fraud was a disaster that hurt both of us. How did it hurt both of us? It hurt you because you lost an opportunity you had earned. It hurt me because I spent 5 years failing at jobs I wasn't prepared for instead of developing real skills at positions that matched my abilities. I had to admit that this was a more thoughtful analysis than I had expected. Jenna, let's say I was willing to consider you for an entry-level position. What would make you different from other candidates? Honestly, nothing. I don't have better qualifications or more experience than other entry-level candidates. What I have is a very clear understanding of what happens when someone tries to advance their career through shortcuts instead of genuine development. And that's valuable because it means I'm motivated to do excellent work at whatever level I'm hired for instead of constantly looking for ways to get promoted before I'm ready. This was not the conversation I had expected to have. I had assumed that Jenna would be the same manipulative, entitled person who had sabotaged my interview 5 years earlier. Instead, I was talking to someone who seemed to have genuinely learned from her failures and was looking for an opportunity to rebuild her career honestly. Jenna, I need to ask you something directly. Okay, if I hired you, and if you eventually learned that there was an opportunity to advance your career by sabotaging a colleague, would you do it? No. Why not? Because I've seen what happens when you build success on undermining other people. It doesn't work. Eventually, your lack of genuine qualifications catches up with you, and you end up worse off than if you had just focused on developing real skills. What if you thought you could get away with it? Chloe, I thought I could get away with it 5 years ago. And technically, I did get away with it in the short term. But getting away with fraud didn't make me qualified for the job I stole. It just delayed the inevitable consequences of my incompetence. So you're saying that sabotaging my interview was a mistake because it didn't work out for you personally? I'm saying that sabotaging your interview was wrong because it was fraud, because it hurt someone I cared about, and because it set me up for years of failure by putting me in a position I wasn't prepared for. In that order? Jenna thought about this for a moment. Actually, in reverse order. I think I learned that it was personally destructive before I learned that it was morally wrong, but I have learned both lessons. What would you say to someone who was considering sabotaging a colleague's career advancement? I would tell them that even if they succeed in hurting someone else, they won't succeed in helping themselves unless they actually develop the skills needed for the position they're trying to get. And if they already had the skills, then they wouldn't need to sabotage anyone. They could just demonstrate their qualifications and compete fairly. This answer suggested a level of personal growth that I found both surprising and encouraging. Jenna, let me ask you this. What do you think you could contribute to Impact Digital? Strong execution on social social media campaigns, content creation, and project management, reliability and attention to detail, and a very strong motivation to prove that I can succeed through honest work instead of through manipulation. What about strategic thinking, leadership potential, business development? I don't think I have those skills yet. Maybe I could develop them over time, but I'd want to prove myself in an execution role first. Most people would oversell their strategic capabilities in an interview. Most people haven't spent 5 years failing at jobs they oversold themselves for. After an hour of conversation, I found myself in an unexpected position. I had intended this interview to be an opportunity to confront Jenna about her past behavior and then reject her application. Instead, I was considering whether to offer her an entry-level position, not because I had forgiven her for what she did 5 years ago, but because she seemed to have genuinely learned from her failures and was now looking for an opportunity to rebuild her career honestly. Jenna, I need some time to think about this. I'll get back to you by the end of the week. I understand. And Chloe? Yes? Congratulations on building something amazing. Impact Digital's work is really impressive, and you should be proud of what you've accomplished. Thank you. I also want you to know that seeing your success makes me realize how much potential I wasted by choosing fraud over genuine development. You built something meaningful by doing the work. I could have learned to do the work too if I had been willing to start at the appropriate level. After Jenna left, I spent the rest of the day thinking about our conversation. Part of me wanted to reject her application out of principle. She had sabotaged my career through fraud, and offering her a job felt like rewarding bad behavior. But another part of me recognized that Jenna seemed to have genuinely changed and was now looking for an opportunity to prove that she could succeed through honest work. More importantly, I realized that my decision about Jenna's application was also a decision about what kind of leader and what kind of person I wanted to be. Did I want to be someone who held grudges and refused to give people second chances? Or did I want to be someone who focused on current qualifications and potential rather than past mistakes? That evening, I called my mentor, Dr. Sarah Chen, the real Sarah Chen, who had been my favorite professor in college and now served on Impact Digital's advisory board. Sarah, I need advice about a hiring decision. What's the situation? I explained the whole story: Jenna's sabotage of my interview, her subsequent career failures, and her application to work at my company. That's quite a situation, Sarah said when I finished. What's your gut feeling about whether to hire her? I'm torn. On one hand, she hurt me badly, and I don't want to reward that behavior. On the other hand, she seems to have genuinely learned from her mistakes and is looking for a chance to prove she can succeed honestly. What do you think would be best for Impact Digital? If she's telling the truth about her abilities and motivation, she could be a good entry-level employee. She has basic skills and seems genuinely committed to doing good work. And if she's not telling the truth, then I fire her, and lesson learned. Chloe, let me ask you this. What would you want someone to do if you had made a serious mistake early in your career and were looking for a chance to rebuild? I'd want them to judge me based on my current qualifications and potential rather than my past failures. There's your answer. But Sarah, what she did wasn't just a mistake. It was deliberate fraud. That's true, but it sounds like she's faced serious consequences for that fraud. 5 years of career failure and professional humiliation. Sometimes people learn more from natural consequences than they do from additional punishment. So, you think I should hire her? I think you should hire her if you believe she's qualified for the position, and if you think she can contribute to your mission. But I also think you should protect yourself and your company by setting clear expectations and monitoring her performance closely. What kind of expectations? Complete honesty about her work, no office politics or manipulation, and exceptional performance to prove that she deserves the second chance you're giving her. And if she doesn't meet those expectations, then you fire her immediately and move on. I decided to offer Jenna the position, but not without conditions. I called her Friday afternoon with my decision. Jenna, I'm prepared to offer you an entry-level digital marketing assistant position at Impact Digital. Oh my God, really? Thank you so much. Before you get too excited, let me explain the terms. Okay, this is a 6-month probationary position at $35,000 per year, significantly less than what you've been making previously. Your responsibilities will be limited to social media content creation, basic project coordination, and administrative support. I understand. You will have no access to strategic planning, client relationships, or sensitive company information during your probationary period. That makes sense. Most importantly, any sign of dishonesty, manipulation, or office politics will result in immediate termination without warning. I wouldn't expect anything less. Jenna, I want you to understand something. I'm not hiring you because we're old friends or because I've forgiven what you did 5 years ago. I'm hiring you because you seem to have learned from your failures and because I believe in giving people second chances when they've earned them. I understand completely. This is your last chance to prove that you can succeed through honest work. If you mess this up, you'll never get another opportunity in this industry. I won't mess it up. We'll see. Jenna started work the following Monday. For the first few weeks, I watched her carefully, looking for any signs of the manipulative behavior that had characterized her actions 5 years earlier. But what I observed was someone who was genuinely committed to doing excellent work at whatever level she was assigned. She arrived early, stayed late, and completed every task with attention to detail and professionalism. She was friendly with colleagues, but didn't try to insert herself into office social dynamics or gossip. She asked thoughtful questions about her assignments and company processes, but didn't try to offer strategic advice advice or suggestions beyond her role. Most importantly, she seemed to be genuinely enjoying the work for the first time in her career. "Chloe," she said during her 1-month check-in meeting, "I know this might sound weird, but I'm happier doing entry-level work that I'm good at than I was doing senior-level work that I was bad at. Why do you think that is? Because there's something satisfying about being competent. I spent 5 years feeling like a fraud who was constantly on the verge of being exposed. Now I feel like I'm actually contributing something valuable. How are you finding the work environment here?" "It's completely different from anywhere else I've worked. People here actually care about doing good work instead of just looking impressive. It's refreshing." "What do you mean?" "At my previous jobs, people spent more time on office politics and self-promotion than on actual work. Here, people are recognized for their contributions and results rather than their ability to take credit for other people's achievements." "Is that what you expected?" "It's what I hoped for. After 5 years of working in toxic environments, I was starting to think that all offices were like that. They're not. But you have to choose companies based on their values rather than their prestige. That's something I definitely learned the hard way. 3 months into Jenna's employment, something happened that tested her commitment to honest work. One of our senior account managers, Kevin, was struggling with a major client campaign. The client was unhappy with the initial strategy, and Kevin was facing pressure to turn things around quickly. Jenna had been providing support on the campaign's social media components and had developed some insights about why the current approach wasn't working. In the old days, Jenna might have tried to undermine Kevin and position herself as the person who could save the campaign. Instead, she came to me with her observations and asked how she could best support Kevin's efforts to improve the strategy. "I think the current messaging isn't resonating with the client's target audience," she told me, "but I wanted to check with you about the appropriate way to share this feedback." "What kind of feedback do you have?" "I've been analyzing the social media engagement on the content we've produced, and it's pretty clear that the demographic we're targeting isn't responding the way we expected. What do you think the problem is?" "I think we're using messaging that appeals to the client's leadership rather than messaging that appeals to their actual customers." This was a sophisticated analysis that showed Jenna was developing real strategic thinking skills. "How do you think this feedback should be communicated?" "I think I should present my data to Kevin and let him decide how to incorporate it into his revised strategy. It's his campaign, and I'm just providing support." "That's exactly right." Jenna scheduled a meeting with Kevin, presented her analysis professionally, and gave him full credit when he used her insights to develop a revised strategy that ultimately satisfied the client. It was exactly the kind of collaborative, ego-free behavior that I valued in our team. Kevin came to thank me for Jenna's contribution to the Morrison campaign. I told Jenna during her 3-month review, "I hope it was helpful." "It was. But what impressed him most was how you presented your insights without trying to take credit or undermine his leadership of the campaign. That's his campaign. I was just providing data. A lot of people in your position would have tried to use that situation to get promoted or to make Kevin look bad. That would have been stupid. Kevin is good at his job, and I'm learning a lot from working with him. Why would I want to undermine someone who's helping me develop my skills?" "It sounds like you've learned something important about workplace dynamics." "I've learned that helping other people succeed is usually the best way to advance your own career." "Why do you think that is?" "Because when you help other people succeed, they want to work with you again. When you undermine people, they avoid you or try to get rid of you." "Anything else?" "Also because when you focus on doing good work instead of playing politics, you actually get better at your job. And being good at your job is the most sustainable way to advance your career." This was a level of professional maturity that I hadn't expected to see from someone who had sabotaged my career 5 years earlier. At her 6-month review, I offered Jenna a permanent position with a salary increase and expanded responsibilities. "Thank you so much," she said when I gave her the news. "This means everything to me. You've earned it through consistent good work." "Chloe, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why did you decide to give me a second chance?" "I know you didn't have to, and I know I didn't deserve it based on my past behavior." I thought about this question for a moment. "Honestly, I wanted to see if you had really changed, or if you were just saying what you thought I wanted to hear. And you've demonstrated that you really have changed. You've shown that you can succeed through honest work, and you've proven that you understand the difference between genuine contribution and office politics. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to prove that. Jenna, I need you to understand something. I didn't give you this opportunity as an act of forgiveness or friendship. I gave it to you because everyone deserves a chance to rebuild their life if they're willing to do the work. I understand that. But I also want you to know that watching you succeed through honest effort has been satisfying in a way I didn't expect." "What do you mean?" "I mean that proving you can succeed through integrity and hard work validates everything I believe about how business should work. I hope I can continue to prove that." "I think you will." 1 year after Jenna started working at Impact Digital, she was promoted to social media strategist, a role that involved more strategic thinking and client interaction. 2 years later, she became a senior digital marketing specialist, leading campaigns for several of our mid-sized nonprofit clients. But the most meaningful development was that we had rebuilt our friendship on a completely different foundation. Instead of being based on shared history and social compatibility, our new relationship was based on mutual respect, professional collaboration, and shared values. "Chloe," Jenna said during one of our quarterly check-ins, "I need to tell you something." "What's that?" "Working here has taught me what I was missing in all my previous jobs," which was a sense of purpose. When I was trying to advance my career through manipulation and shortcuts, I was focused on external rewards like salary and title and prestige. And now I'm focused on actually contributing to something meaningful. The work we do here, helping organizations that are addressing homelessness and environmental protection and education equity, feels important in a way that my previous jobs never did. Do you think that's why you're succeeding here when you failed elsewhere? Partly, but I also think I'm succeeding because I finally stopped trying to be someone I'm not. What do you mean? I spent years trying to be the kind of person who could manipulate office politics and charm clients and take credit for other people's work, but that's not who I am, and trying to be that person made me miserable and ineffective. Who are you? I'm someone who's good at execution, collaboration, and detail-oriented work. I'm not a natural leader or strategic visionary, but I'm really good at helping other people implement their visions. And you're okay with that? I'm more than okay with it. I'm proud of it. There's value in being excellent at execution, and there's satisfaction in helping other people succeed. Jenna, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you ever regret not getting to build your career at Elevate Strategies? She thought about this for a long time. I regret that I hurt you and damaged our friendship. I regret that I committed fraud and behaved dishonestly. I regret that I wasted 5 years failing at jobs I wasn't qualified for. But do you regret not working at Elevate Strategies specifically? No, because if I had succeeded there through fraud, I would have just continued building my career on manipulation and shortcuts. I would never have learned to do actual work or developed genuine skills. So you think getting fired from Elevate was ultimately a good thing? I think getting fired from Elevate was the natural consequence of my incompetence, and facing those consequences was the only way I was going to learn to succeed honestly. What about me? Do you think losing the Elevate opportunity was ultimately good for me? I think you would have succeeded wherever you ended up because you had real skills and genuine integrity. But I think building Impact Digital has been better for you than working for someone else's company would have been. Why do you think that? Because here you get to create the kind of workplace culture that reflects your values. At Elevate, you would have been constrained by their existing culture and priorities. So you think everything worked out for the best? I think everything worked out well for you because you made good choices after I made bad choices. My fraud created a setback for you, but your response to that setback led to something better than what you had lost. And for you? For me, everything worked out well because I eventually learned to make better choices. But it took 5 years of failure and humiliation before I was ready to learn those lessons. This conversation helped me understand something important about Jenna's personal growth and our renewed relationship. She wasn't trying to minimize the harm she had caused by suggesting that things had worked out for the best. She was acknowledging that her bad choices had created problems for both of us, and that the positive outcomes we had both achieved were the result of how we had responded to those problems. More importantly, she was demonstrating genuine accountability by taking full responsibility for the consequences of her actions, rather than trying to share credit for the eventual positive outcomes. 3 years after Jenna started working at Impact Digital, I promoted her to Associate Marketing Director, a role that involved managing junior staff and leading strategy development for our smaller clients. It was a position that required exactly the kind of leadership and strategic thinking that she had claimed not to possess when I first hired her. Chloe, I don't know if I'm ready for this level of responsibility, she said when I offered her the promotion. Why not? Because I've never successfully managed other people before. But you've been informally mentoring our newer employees for the past year. That's different from having formal management responsibilities. How so? Because mentoring is about helping people develop their skills. Management is about making decisions that affect their careers and job security. Do you think you're not qualified for management responsibilities? I think I'm qualified to try, but I want to make sure I approach it with the right mindset, which is, I want to be the kind of manager who helps people develop their authentic strengths instead of trying to force them into roles that don't fit their abilities. Like what happened to you in your early career? Exactly. I want to help people find the work they're actually good at instead of pushing them toward work that looks impressive but doesn't match their skills. Jenna, that's exactly the kind of management philosophy we need more of. I also want to make sure I can give people honest feedback about their performance without letting personal relationships interfere with professional responsibilities. What do you mean? I mean that if someone is struggling in their role, I want to be able to address that directly instead of avoiding difficult conversations or making excuses for poor performance. Why is that important to you? Because getting honest feedback earlier in my career might have helped me understand my limitations sooner, instead of spending years failing at jobs I wasn't suited for. So you see management as a way to help other people avoid the mistakes you made? I see management as a way to help people succeed by being realistic about their strengths and development needs. Jenna has now been in her management role for 6 months, and she's exactly the kind of leader I hoped she would become. She's direct but supportive in her feedback to team members. She focuses on helping people develop their authentic strengths rather than trying to turn them into something they're not. She takes responsibility for her team's results without taking credit for individual team members' contributions. Most importantly, she's created an environment where people feel safe to acknowledge their development needs and ask for help rather than pretending to be qualified for responsibilities they don't understand. Jenna's team has the highest employee satisfaction scores in the company, our HR manager told me during last month's management review. What do you think makes her effective as a manager? Her team members say she's honest about expectations, supportive of their development, and focused on helping them succeed succeed rather than making herself look good. Anything else? They also say she's the first manager they've had who admits when she doesn't know something, instead of pretending to have expertise she doesn't possess. This feedback confirmed what I had observed about Jenna's leadership style. She had learned that authentic competence was more valuable than false confidence, and she was teaching that lesson to the people she managed. Last week, Jenna came to me with a request that surprised me. Chloe, I want to ask for your permission to do something. What's that? I want to write an article about my career journey for the company blog. What kind of article? An honest account of how I sabotaged my own career through fraud and manipulation, how that led to years of failure, and how I learned to succeed through honest work. Why do you want to write about that publicly? Because I think there are other people who are making the same mistakes I made, and maybe reading about the consequences would help them make better choices. What would you say in the article? I'd talk about how trying to advance your career through shortcuts and manipulation ultimately backfires. I'd explain how focusing on genuine skill development and authentic contribution leads to more sustainable success. You're not worried about damaging your professional reputation by admitting to fraud? My professional reputation should be based on the work I've done over the past 3 years, not on hiding the mistakes I made before that. Jenna, are you sure you want to be that vulnerable publicly? I think people respect honesty more than they respect perfect track records, and I think admitting mistakes can actually be more powerful than pretending you've never failed. I agreed to let Jenna write the article. It was published on our company blog 2 weeks ago under the title, How I Learned That Career Success Can't Be Stolen or Faked. The response has been overwhelming. We've received dozens of emails from young professionals thanking Jenna for her honesty and sharing their own struggles with workplace integrity. Several business publications have reached out to interview her about workplace ethics and career development. Most importantly, the article has generated conversations about the importance of building careers on authentic competence rather than manipulation or shortcuts. I never expected that admitting my failures would be more professionally valuable than hiding them, Jenna told me after the article was published. Why do you think it's been so well received? I think people are hungry for honest conversations about career challenges. Most professional content is about success strategies, but not many people talk openly about failure and recovery. What do you hope people take away from your story? I hope they understand that there are no shortcuts to genuine career success. I hope they learn that trying to advance through manipulation or fraud will ultimately backfire. And I hope they see that it's possible to rebuild your career honestly, even after making serious mistakes. Anything else? I hope they understand that finding work that matches your authentic skills and interests is more satisfying than getting prestigious work that you're not qualified for. Jenna, can I tell you something? Of course. Watching you transform from someone who sabotaged my career to someone who's become a valued colleague and friend has been one of the most meaningful experiences of my professional life. Why? Because it's proven that people can genuinely change if they're willing to face the consequences of their mistakes and do the hard work of rebuilding their character. Do you think most people are capable of that kind of change? I think most people are capable of it, but not everyone is willing to do it. It requires admitting that you were wrong, accepting the consequences of your actions, and rebuilding from a position of humility rather than entitlement. It also requires finding people who are willing to give you a second chance. That's true, but I think second chances have to be earned through demonstrated change, not just requested through apologies. Is that why you made me prove myself for 6 months before offering me a permanent position? Exactly. Anyone can say they've changed, but only people who have actually changed can demonstrate consistent new behavior over time. I'm grateful that you gave me the opportunity to demonstrate change rather than just expecting you to believe my promises. I'm grateful that you used that opportunity to actually change rather than just trying to manipulate your way into permanent employment. This conversation summarized something important about the relationship Jenna and I have built over the past 3 years. It's not based on pretending that the past didn't happen or minimizing the harm that was caused. It's based on acknowledging what happened, accepting responsibility for the consequences, and building something new based on demonstrated growth and authentic values. Today, 4 years after that first interview, Jenna and I work together as genuine partners in building Impact Digital's mission. She's now Director of Digital Strategy, leading our largest client campaigns and mentoring our junior staff. I remain CEO, focused on company vision, business development, and creating the kind of workplace culture that allows people to succeed through integrity and authentic contribution. But more importantly, we've both learned lessons that have made us better professionals and better people. I've learned that holding grudges and refusing to give people second chances limits your own growth as much as it punishes their past mistakes. Jenna has learned that sustainable career success comes from developing genuine competence rather than gaming systems or manipulating relationships. We've both learned that the most satisfying work is work that aligns with your authentic values and allows you to contribute to something meaningful. The woman who once sabotaged my dream job interview is now one of my most trusted colleagues. The career she tried to steal from me led to me building something better than anything I had originally imagined, and the company we now run together has helped dozens of nonprofits and social enterprises achieve greater impact through honest, effective marketing. Sometimes the people who hurt you most become the people who teach you the most important lessons about forgiveness, growth, and the possibility of genuine change, but only if they're willing to do the work required to earn a second chance, and only if you're willing to let people prove that they can become better than their worst decisions.